All right.
Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, it's Kenoshi Abominito here with another cast, Project Console, um, House Fire, and before we get into our topics, I'd like my panelist member to introduce himself.
Yeah, it's me, Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters. But today I'm just a guest on a podcast.
I'm glad to have you. So,
Glad to be.
so this year, um, gotten a lot of news pertaining to a lot of these video game companies. Um, a lot of layoffs, a lot of cancellations, a lot of games getting shut down. Um, people want to blame um, the pandemic and the stuff that was happening then, but I think a lot of this was a lot. I mean, if you've been following the industry for uh, a period of time, um, you know that you know that things have you know that things have sorry you know that things have been progressing uh, to this point. So you know, but before we go, before sorry, doing several things before we go on. Do you want to also elaborate on what is happening pertaining to
Sure.
the video
I'll
games?
elaborate on what's happening. Some people will tell you that this is happening because of they expanded too quickly during the pandemic, which I would say that could be a viable option if if these companies weren't publicly traded and they didn't have to show their books. And their books say that they made record profits during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that's not a valid argument. Oh, well, it was so expensive. We hired too many people. Bullshit. You made a lot of money with those people. So that doesn't make sense. Personally, and this is just my own supposition, I could be wrong because, I don't know everything, contrary to what my attitude may sometimes convey. Uh, Me personally, I think what I think happened, this is just my own supposition, is that I think these companies basically hired a whole bunch of people, and right now they basically want to clean up their books and make themselves look uh, healthier, uh, accounts wise. And the way they can do that, instead of coming out with new products or better products, the way they're going to do that is by basically saying, "Hey, look, we fired a whole bunch of people. Like I remember some studios like, yeah, we're going to hold ourselves accountable. But they aren't holding themselves accountable. What they're doing is that they're firing a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's not holding yourself accountable.
Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that we're seeing now, especially with how they're handling games, how a lot of these games can have past few years come out broken and buggy, a lot of key mark titles. Um, Cyberpunk 2077, Battlefield, the latest Battlefield game, Star Wars. Um, no, just a plethora of particularly really hype games have come out broken. And I would make the argument again. People would like to blame the pandemic, but a lot of the stuff was in the works. Even before the pandemic, there was a lot of chicanery when it came to the gaming industry. The microtransactions, the even the layoffs, because even before they were getting you see these CEOs get huge, ginormous um, giving themselves
Payouts.
huge bonuses,
Yeah.
and they would lay off like, you know, a couple hundred people maybe, and it's
Yeah.
just kind of like you gave yourself a huge bonus, but you couldn't take that money and just use it to keep paying for whatever those people were doing. That's kind of
Yeah.
weird.
Well, because that's holding people accountable by firing people because of your bad financial decisions, so that they can't pay their mortgage or they have to move. You know.
Yeah. They fired a bunch of people so they can keep, you know, uh, you know, keep the money so they can put gas in their second yacht.
Well, I mean, I don't even think sometimes they don't even give themselves bonuses. I think it's just like because there's this myth that if you fire people, that somehow that's going to equal, um, you know, like Wall Street's like, well, you fired a whole bunch of workers, but they don't call it that. They call it they call it the soft speak, like we were curtailing redundancies,
Yeah.
which is just a fancy way of saying we fired a whole bunch of people because we didn't know how to utilize them properly to make money. Which, I mean, like, here's the thing: if you are a CEO, like your sole job as a CEO is to find a way for the company to make money, so that the shareholders can make a return on their investment. If you can't do that without firing a whole bunch of people, you're a shitty CEO.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why people are like, oh no, I can't believe this. I'm like, come on, bruh.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you don't know how to make money, like if you're a banker and you don't know how to make money by investing, then why are you in this business?
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Uh,
that's my issue with a lot of this shit today is just like these people are like, yeah, well, you know, we had to do this and so was not. It's like, yeah, but your sole purpose was to make money, and you're not even doing that because you're firing people. Like if you're a game manufacturer, you make video games, your sole thing is making money, and the way
well,
you make money is by making games.
yeah.
And here's
Yeah.
the thing: the CEOs can't make games. The CEOs just basically greenlight projects that they think will make money. The people who make the games are the people that they're firing. And here's the thing: you know that once they start ramping up production again, they're going to have to hire people. So it's like literally, it's like, I don't know if you know anything about cooking, but there's like sourdough, right? And like a lot of sourdough bakers basically um, keep like the sourdough starter for years and years and years, like many, many years. And you're like, oh, I want to start a new sourdough. I want to bake more sourdough, but someone threw away the starter. That's basically what these people are doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then gonna complain, oh, we don't have enough stuff to make the starter. It's like, well, you threw it away, you dumbass.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I mean, they'll they'll use their you know, well, like we talked about last week, a lot of it, unfortunately, is and fortunately, obviously, if you're an investor, you want to make money. There was a point where Nvidia lost like 10% value, and if you get like 40, $50,000 in stock in Nvidia, that's gonna hurt. It's a lot of
Not really, because the thing is that it's still higher than it was 5 years ago. So
yeah,
you still made money if you're investing long term. Now, if you're a short term investor, you deserve whatever you get because you shouldn't be investing short term. Investment is literally a long term proposition. Like if you invest in stocks, if you invested in stocks 30 years ago, like a general trading firm from X amount of years ago, you're still going to have made more money. The stock market is higher now than it was 30 years ago. much higher than it was 30 years ago. So you're still going to make your money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So people are like, oh, we lost. Well, if you're a short-term investor, but you shouldn't be investing if you're a short-term investor. You should go do something else because like investment is a long term. It's long. Good investment is long term,
Yeah.
right? If you're just thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, then that's short-term investment, and you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. 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 All the point I was gonna make is like, people would look at 10% and be like, "Oh, that's not a lot," but it really depends how much money you've put uh put into it. But yeah, uh, yeah. I mean, if you're investing long term, you you probably didn't. It probably didn't hurt as much as somebody who invested did it like a short term investment or oh. But in any case, what the heck was I going on about before I whatever. But honestly, how did this happen? How did we end up getting here? So many people, like I said earlier, pandemic, you know. But I remember back in 2013, 2014, 2015, people talking about the gaming industry and a lot of the nonsense that was uh, that was happening. And what 2020 did was just move the sliders to the right, overclocked everything, and you know, it essentially just made things worse. Things were already heading in this direction, or have headed in this direction, but it was far more significant and reached a lot more people. Um, but what are your thoughts?
Uh, I mean, I think that you know, some people will have you believe that this was gonna that oh this was inevitable. I don't take the inevitable point of view on things. I think that ultimately what happened is um, you know these CEOs were looking for a scapegoat, an easy scapegoat that wasn't gonna hold them to task on what they were doing. And it's
Yeah,
easy to blame workers when you're not doing your job.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
because you notice all these CEOs, it was their shitty plans, give or take. Like Embracer, it was Embracer's shitty plans that led to people losing their jobs.
yeah,
It was their that fell through. Because like I said, Embracer had not released anything that was really you know, like a great game.
yeah, yeah. That's another another problem is Embracer. Um, they had this meteoric rise without doing anything. Um,
Yeah.
which is like, what the heck is it? And now they're desperately struggling, rearranging the.
Well, not really. The most profitable part of their company, which was the board game part of it,
Yeah.
they basically they spun them off and settled them with $900 million of debt.
Oh, jeez.
Now you might say, well, this company is actually really profitable because they make the Catan, they make all of the premier like high quality, expensive as fuck board games.
Oh, okay.
Those board games that are like hundreds of dollars and no one says anything because they're that good. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, they make those games, but they settled them with 3.9 years of debt.
Oof.
Yeah, and then Embracer took like I want to say like around like I want to say like a half a year of debt.
Okay.
I mean, it's a real fucked up shit. Like it's like for real, you did that.
So they
You know,
essentially put
Embracer's
all.
a trash ass. You know,
So they basically put all the weight on their back, so they would keep working for them, so they couldn't get out
well,
from
no,
under.
they got spun off. They're independent now. They don't have to
Oh,
work for
really?
them.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but it's like, hey, hey, guess what? We're getting a divorce. Cool. Here's all my debt.
Wow, that's
Because this
crazy.
is all Embracer's debt. This is not that company's debt because they had their shit together.
Why the
But
heck?
Embracer bought them.
Oh,
This is why debt consolidation and companies buying each other is not a good thing.
so wait, they bought them and they couldn't afford them. So they, in allowing them to spin off and become their independent, that what they couldn't afford, they just simply
They
bought.
saddled the debt that Embracer accrued onto this board game company that
God
makes the
damn.
premier board games that are like high tier, high quality. You know, those board games are like $200, $300, and the people who are really into board games just pay it because they're that good.
Yeah. So wait. So it's, oh, that sounds like a lawsuit, or they probably really can't do
No,
much of it
no,
with
because
the
they used to be owned
expansion.
by that company. It's not a lawsuit if it's the company that owns you.
Yeah, yeah, that is crazy. That is crazy. Well, I'm sure they're gonna do a lot of a lot of weird things now that they have to try to pay back that 900 million. Was 900 million?
Yeah, 900 million in debt. Basically, it's the equivalent of 3 years of profit for that company. So
That's
basically, they can't expand, they can't grow. They're basically fucked for those 3 years, and that's Embracer
boy.
Group. And the CEO's all like, well, you know,
Well, I mean, the problem with Embracer is they
they
want
don't
to
make
make it.
anything.
They don't make
They have
anything.
absolutely, there's nothing they can say, okay, we made this. This is our IP. And so they spun themselves out into the game making part of it, the part that holds the rights to Lord of the Rings, the video game rights to Lord of the Rings and movie rights,
Yeah.
um, and the part of it that's owned by the company that makes board games, and the board game part is independent now. So, but they were saddled in the independence. They were saddled with like millions of dollars in debt, like hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. It's kind of it's really fucked up. Really, it's like damn.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they make it through, they'll be stronger. You know, it's just going to be a rough 3 years, but I think they can pull it off. But
Yeah.
this is a reason why you should never let a company you know, you should when a company says they want to buy you out. Because when I owned my business, I had people, you know, oh, you know, we're going to buy your place. You know, I've had offers, and I was like, no, because I know what you're going to do. You're gonna buy my shit. You're going to take my property. You're going to sell all my shit for some bullshit that's like underpriced, and my people are going to get fired.
Yeah. 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 You gotta be careful with that. But yeah. So we had during 2020, we had a hiring boom in a lot of these tech companies.
Because everyone else was hiring.
Because
They were
everyone
like,
else
well,
was.
if something happens, we gotta if someone gets hired, if people are getting hired, if everyone else is hiring people, then we need to hire people because we don't want to be left behind. It's basically we don't want to be left behind.
Yeah. Yeah. So so yeah, it's like we were talking about last week with uh, people are over, hiring a bunch of talent, so it would be more difficult for other people to hire talent. So
Yeah,
monopolizing talent. Um,
you know, it's like this, right? If everyone's buying a rocket launcher and you don't have a rocket launcher, you're going to start to get a little worried because you don't have a rocket launcher, but everyone else has a rocket launcher.
exactly. Yeah.
You might not want a rocket launcher, but if everyone else around you has a rocket launcher, but you don't, you're going to feel like, I think there's something going on here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So the end of the day, oh, and not to mention after things cooled down and after people weren't at home playing video games, they ended up happening to well they ended up happening to or at least they claim that they had to fire people. Um, so a lot of it wasn't trying to save themselves financially. A lot of it was like so in the future that they could start hiring again slowly to make it look like they're growing. Uh, but at the end of the day, whose fault is it? Uh, what are your
I mean,
thoughts?
clearly it's the people who did the shit.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the CEOs.
yeah,
But the people who take the hit are people who take the hit are the employees.
yeah, yeah,
It's like in a divorce, the people who suffer the most are the kids. People who had who had fuck all to do with it, are the ones who pay the price.
yeah. The problem with the CEOs is a lot of them are really just there to please shareholders, and they don't really care about the the end customer, or they don't
No,
really care.
because that's not a CEO's job.
Yeah,
A CEO's job is to grow the value of the company and make sure the investors get a return on their investment. The only good CEO I've seen of a corporation is the guy who's the CEO of Costco. But here's the dirty little secret about Costco, right? Costco, uh, like if you are a member of Costco, you're part owner.
yeah,
So of course they want to, the CEO of Costco answers to the people who, you know,
pay
to the
the
people
money.
who are members because you're a part owner.
Oh, interesting.
Plus, you can also buy stock in Costco. You know, but that's the dirty little secret about Costco. That's not something that most people know about.
Hmm. It's an interesting strategy.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, why do you think Costco is one of the most well-run? And plus, the CEO of Costco doesn't make a lot of money.
Yeah, compared to everybody else.
No, I think he makes like maybe I want to say between $1 and $2.5 million, which for a CEO is like, you know, that is like he's in the poorhouse if he's a CEO. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. You
plus
see,
stock options and shit like that. Which for me, like that's how it used to be for CEOs. Like a CEO basically made about 4 to 5 times of what his highest paid worker employee made.
yeah,
This bullshit where like you've got like CEOs making hundreds, if not thousands of times more than what their employees make. That is some bullshit.
yeah, yeah.
That's something that's happened during the age of consumerism.
I don't know because there's so many more people. There's so many people are just buying a lot more stuff than they've ever had.
No, no, it's capitalism. It's runaway capitalism with no controls. You know, because like here's the thing, okay? If you're a CEO of a company that made a metric fuck ton of money, go ahead, get your money. But there are CEOs who run companies into the ground and get paid millions of dollars, like millions. Like Bobby Kotick was one of the highest paid CEOs in video gaming. Like he was making 400 million, 250 to 400 million, depending on the year.
Jeez,
Bobby
he was
Kotick
making a billion.
Bobby Kotick, while he did make a lot of money for Activision, Bobby Kotick also caused a lot of problems for Activision. Why was this man making all this extra money despite him running that company into the ground?
Yeah. That, yeah.
Now, if you do a good job, yeah, you should get paid. If you do a good job.
Yeah.
If you're fucking up, then no, you shouldn't be rewarded for bad behavior. And that's what basically has been going on in all these things is that people who are doing like horribly are getting rewarded for their bad behavior,
Yeah.
and that shit ain't right.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. Um, so I know sometimes we tend to blame, especially going back to the poor state of a lot of the games and the constant microtransactions. We tend to generally the general uh, gaming community likes to blame the developers and likes to blame the customers for buying into a lot of this stuff because even with some of these games not being very well polished, they will sell millions of copies, but there's not enough. And I think more of this has happened. I think more of this has happened over the years. People are starting to more and more to point their finger at the publishers, rushing the developers. I know we've had conversations about crunch time and about uh, just abuse when it comes to getting these games out. Um, but yeah, it really starts at the top and how these companies manage their employees and manage their products. Um, so yeah, I would agree for the most part.
Yeah, I'll say it's the publishers. Basically, anytime you have people who aren't being held accountable for their behavior, you know, we tend in America, unfortunately, the sad thing is that people have been fooled. Consumers have been fooled into blaming the American public has been fooled into blaming the victims instead of the people who are really at fault. You know, like people have been fooled. Oh man, that person's homeless because they want to be homeless. So not because the safety nets that should be in place for homeless people are not there, or they've been so savagely cut back on that there's just no money to deal with the issue properly. You know, you know, that you know, and it's like that woman, she was right, she was wearing she look what she was wearing. It's like that's not the point. It doesn't matter what she was fucking wearing. It matters that she was raped. Um, it's like people don't seem to understand these things. That it doesn't matter. Um, you know, it doesn't matter how much the like. It doesn't matter. That the developers did this, or these people's money wasn't what it should have been. What matters is that these people were underpaid for what they did,
Yeah,
and that they were supposed to be paid a certain amount and they weren't. Like that's
yeah,
more important than you know.
yeah,
But you mention this, people get mad. They're like, oh, don't say that. Don't say that shit. You know, like gamers shouldn't have to deal with this. You know, I mean, as gamers, we just want to play our games. Gamers don't want to think about the
I don't want to think about the intricacies of what's going on behind the scene. We want to be able to
yeah,
plop
they
in
just
our
want to play
system.
their games and keep it moving. And I understand that. You know, I don't want to think about the intricacies of making games. You know, because I don't make games, and also I just want to play my games and go and chill.
30, 40, 50, 60, 70. They want to plop down there 30, 40, 50, 60, $70, and just be able to come home after work and you know, sit their ass down on the couch, pick up their controller or their keyboard, and start playing something.
You got
You
it.
know, and
Like I
that's
don't
all they.
like as a gamer, look, as a gamer, I totally understand. As someone who um likes to think about the politics behind things, poli sci major, sociology major, I like to think about shit like that. But also at the end of the day, sometimes you just want to relax.
Yeah,
You don't want to think about the bullshit. And unfortunately, the bullshit never ends. It's never ending.
yeah, unfortunately.
We
But
still got to deal with it. We still got to deal with people selling us stuff that is fundamentally broken. We still got to deal with people giving us games that are fundamentally broken. We got to deal with this shit. Do I want to? No.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So how do we resolve it? Um, well, I mean, as a consumer, just essentially just quit buying their products. Uh,
Yep.
that's the
You
stand
said
as a
it.
consumer.
You hit the nail on the head. Stop buying their products. You know,
Yeah,
don't buy shit day one unless you know that the publisher, unless it's an indie, okay, in which that money is going straight to them, or it's a publisher who is on the up and up.
yeah, yeah,
If they aren't on the up and up, then don't give them your money. Just be like, you know what? I don't need this today.
yeah,
Wait till it goes on sale. I know that's a hard thing for some people to understand because you know gamers want it now.
yeah,
But sometimes you gotta take a step back and not get everything. You're not gonna get everything now. That's just life.
yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly. Um, yeah, I mean, stop buying the games. Stop paying for the microtransactions. They'll be forced to change course because nothing hurts them more than a nice swift kick to the pocketbook.
Yeah. You want a company to stop doing shit that you don't like? Stop giving them money.
Yeah,
They will learn that lesson
yeah, yeah.
very quickly. Unless it's Nintendo. Nintendo just don't give a fuck. But other companies, other companies learn their lesson pretty goddamn quickly. You know what? We need to stop doing that because we're losing money.
So what? Yeah, you have any free topics before we close out the show? It's short class tonight. I'm kind of tired. I know you gotta go to bed early to catch your flight. So
I do, but I'm going to be sleeping on the flight, so it's where I am from south to Charlotte, and then I'm flying from Charlotte. It's a 5.5 hour flight from Charlotte to LA. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. But I'm flying first class, so I really don't care. But yeah, man, if you're flying a 5.5 hour long flight, if you can afford it, fly first class, so then you don't have to fucking deal with badass kids and loud, annoying people. You get an in-flight meal.
How much does the first class flight cost?
For me,
Yeah.
I used my points, so it was only like $300 for me. Normally, from where I'm flying, it's like I want to say between 700 and a grand. But
Okay.
you know, hey man, that's why you make money, to make your life easier. What was I about to say? Oh, here's my thing. Uh, I put it in my thing. I was saving it for tomorrow, but I can talk about it today. Why the hell not? Here it is. Me. The Game Boy. This year, the Game Boy turns 35. It came out in 1989. All right. I got mine when I was like 5, so it was like 1991, 92, 91, 92. The Game Boy, arguably one of the most important handhelds ever made. The Switch and the Game Boy have a lot in common. Both of them use old as fuck, obsolete technology.
Yeah.
But here's the difference. The Game Boy had great games in spite of its old, obsolete technology that was used to make it. Whereas the Switch has games that I play, and I realize that, man, this would be so much better if it was on more powerful hardware.
Yeah.
Like, there are games on the Game Boy that came out for the Game Boy Color, where I was like, wow, I wouldn't want this on a home console. This is perfect where it's at. Like Link's Awakening, the Wario Land games, some great RPGs. Like, those games are amazing on the Game Boy. Not so great on a home console. Whereas there are games on the Switch where I'm like, man, if only the hardware was more powerful, this would run better.
Yeah.
Some people are going to get mad when they hear that because, people don't like hearing about their favorite console being trash. But the Game Boy, only had 4 shades of green. Not gray, green.
Yeah.
Okay, dark green, the darkest green, medium green, and light green. Those are the shades. It had a better sound chip than the N64.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
I'm sorry, not the N64, the NES.
Yeah. Yeah.
But colors wise, it was fucked. And those first 2 years of games for the Game Boy, those games were primitive as hell. Fun, but primitive. Like the jump from Super Mario Land to Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins.
Yeah.
It's like if you didn't know about the Game Boy's history, someone told you, "Oh, this is for the next generation Game Boy. This isn't the Gen 1 Game Boy." You'd say, "I believe it."
Yeah. Remember,
Eventually. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I remember it's like I had that old Star Wars game for the Game Boy, and I turned it on. I was playing it. I was like, man, I don't remember Game Boy games running this badly. I didn't remember the frame rate being this terrible. And I put in
Yeah.
Super Mario 2, and it ran buttery smooth. It's like, man, that was just a really bad game, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, it was made by JVC, and JVC was always like, "Oh, this is going to be some bullshit, huh?" Really, the best Star Wars game on the NES is Super Return of the Jedi. Sorry,
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi for the Game Boy, because that game is like a cut down version of the Super Nintendo version. But it has almost everything that's in the Super Nintendo version is in that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except they couldn't do the Mode 7 Death Star run because no Mode 7 on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
But everything else is there. Jabba's palace, Leia in her little slave bikini, Chewbacca, Han, Wicket, all of them are in there. You know, everything is there. And that just basically lets you know the level of creativity that was going on in that in that system at the time.
Yeah.
And I like it. You know,
Yeah.
I think like I said, the Game Boy, in my humble opinion, is Nintendo's is like it's my second no, it's my second favorite handheld Nintendo ever made. I put it slightly below, depending on the day. I put it either on par or slightly below. Like it's neck and neck with the DS for my favorite Nintendo handheld.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. My favorite Nintendo handheld isn't the Switch. It's not the 3DS. It's the DS and the Game Boy. They're like one and two. They're vying for one and two, depending on the day and what I'm playing and what I want to play. They can it can you know the Game Boy can be number one. The DS can be number one, but both of them are like up there.
Yeah.
Mostly because the Game Boy just like you will never see the level of variety on the Game Boy and the DS that we had back then on Nintendo consoles or handhelds ever again. Like the Switch is amazing, still not as amazing as the Game Boy or the DS.
Yeah.
Like we had a GTA made specifically just for the DS. Chinatown Wars.
Yeah. But anyway, that's gonna do it for the cast. Like I said, it's gonna be a short cast tonight. But anything that you like to pimp out before we end the show?
Yeah, yeah. If you guys have Amazon Prime, I want you guys to go and watch a little something called Fallout the TV show. It's pretty goddamn good. It's amazing.
This is Kenoshi Abominito. Here with another Project Console, Housefire. And we will see you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. Have a good life.
Peace. Good night.